All righty, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the Red, White, Claret, and Blue Show. We ain't going nowhere. You'll know why I'm saying that at the end. We are your hosts. I am Alex Baquero. This is Christopher Florence Nightingale Condit, your American villain voices, as always, serving up the lukewarmest of lukewarm opinions. Please, whether you like us or hate us, go listen, subscribe, rate, review, comment, all the things below. We like hate comments as much as we do like comments because that puts us on our way to earning actual money from this.
Yeah, I mean, we're a ways off on that, but please hate. If you think that some hate comments from the internet are going to bother me, you have another thing coming. I do not care what some rando thinks.
We are here for the fight. We are in week 3 of our new format. Sounds like everybody loves it because we have yet to get any negative comments about that.
Yeah.
And this will be one of our longer episodes. We have realized that, the European nights make it difficult to do the more staggered release. We want to make sure that you guys get your Brentford preview as early as possible before the weekend so you can listen to it on Friday. So this is going to be a bit of a longer one. Chris, probably then we need an abbreviated intro. How are you feeling?
I'm doing great. Getting ready for Snowmageddon 2 here and seeing how that plays out this weekend. It's not often that we get two bouts with snow in consecutive weeks in North Carolina, but it looks like we're staring down the barrel of that this week. How are you, Alex?
Yeah, it's not decreasing. I'm doing all right. We are also hurtling towards the Super Bowl, which means I'm hurtling towards about 5 days off from work, which I'm super excited for. And honestly, I'm doing a lot better right now than I would be if football matches were only about 60, 65 minutes long.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so let's hop right into it. Setup. Chris, we spoke in the pre-match about how Salzburg weren't very good, definitely not very good in Europa League, and we expected some heavy rotation from Aston Villa. Unai Emery, for once, agreed with us and heavily rotated the squad. You had Bogard playing right back. You had George Hemmings in for his first start, Jadon Sancho in there, and a one Harvey Elliott.
Yeah, Harvey Elliott's first appearance, I think I saw since October 22nd with the club. So, I mean, that's a long time to be out in the cold. And it goes to show just how depleted the Aston Villa midfield is at the moment, because Unai Emery is doing everything he can to not play Harvey Elliott right now. And that's almost like half the season just sitting on the bench. So a little surprising to see him in there, but I also understand it because we're like we've said in the past, running out of bodies here to throw out there. So I thought that if Harvey Elliott had gotten that early goal, things might have gone differently because he could have really gotten some confidence there. But the keeper just made a very lucky save with his cleat, and it happened to bounce away instead of bouncing in. But I thought Elliott was mostly nothing today. And I'm not super surprised by that, I guess, because he hasn't played in so long in a game situation. Like, you wouldn't expect him to just come off the bench out of nowhere and have this super effective play, right?
So I was about to say that he's a 5 out of 10, and then I realized that anytime you see player ratings anywhere, it seems like 6 is kind of the baseline if you just do nothing.
Yeah.
And it made me think, what is going on with this Harvard-level grade inflation of player ratings every time we do? Why is 5, which is directly in the middle of 0 and 10, not the baseline for average? Why is it 6?
I couldn't tell you that. I don't know.
I don't know. It should be 5. But anyway, he was bang average. He had the early shot. Other than that, I felt like he had some passes. He stringed some stuff together. He dribbled into a lot of alleys. He lost possession a few different times. Nothing was uber consequential, a la Tyrone Mings' mistakes throughout the first half. But he also didn't necessarily do anything that I felt like pushed Villa on to win. What I'm more curious about, Chris, and I've seen a mixed bag of reactions to this. George Hemmings. I saw earlier, 4th youngest Villa player to ever start a European match, I believe. So what do you think from what you saw from him?
Well, I thought that he was fine for a very young player. Like I just, I don't know that he was great necessarily, but also for his age, for that moment, you can't be expecting greatness. I mean, when players come out and they're all wearing like number 57 and 62 and stuff like that, I kind of expect some jitters and nerves. I thought he had moments where he played fairly well. I thought he struggled to stay on the ball, but when he was given opportunities without the press, with space to operate, I thought he did better. And I think that to an extent, Salzburg sort of realized that putting pressure on him would force him into turnovers, and you saw that kind of pick up as the first half went along. But for a very young player making his first ever start, with the big club, I'll take that as a first start.
Yeah, I agree. I think he certainly had a couple consequential losses of possession when he just kind of stuck on the ball a little bit too long that allowed for some Red Bull counters. Other than that, kind of like Harvey Elliott, he did some stuff, nothing great, had some bad moments, but nothing too bad. I wouldn't say that he was as noticeable as, say, Lamar Bogard last year, when we were just like, you just can't keep putting this guy on the pitch. You're just going to destroy his confidence. I actually thought that he kind of showed enough that I'm like, hey, if he's going to come in for 15 minutes at the end of the game, that's fine for me.
Yep.
I would not, or I should say, I think that Unai was correct to take him off when he did. I think he got the 45 minutes, got his experience, got the start, got that under his belt. By the way, it's a lot harder to step in and play with a bunch of backups that are also unfamiliar with one another than if he just kind of stepped right into our usual Premier League starting 11 in place of Youri Tielemans. He might look a lot better in that kind of situation. So no real strong pro or con opinion over him, but obviously congrats on that first appearance. The other thing that I have on the first half, Chris, and actually this kind of bleeds into the second, Lamar Bogard, since I just mentioned him, boy, he continues to very much not be a right back, but he also very much continues to show that he is growing into a very classy midfielder.
Yeah, he plays so well in the midfield when they moved him up with Cash coming on. I'm really pleased by that because he's looked very good as a defensive midfielder this season. Terrible as a right back, which is really putting us in a bad spot because now Garcia is also injured. So I worry about the depth at that position, a right back, because there's nobody available at the moment outside of Matty Cash that actually plays that position full time. And Bogard really struggles there. And I understand why. It's a very different ask than being asked to play a defensive midfield role. So I agree with you 100%. I thought he struggled in the first half, but I thought the whole back four really had a tough time with it, particularly Bogard, Lindelof, Mings. The communication didn't seem to be there. They weren't exactly working in tandem. Mings obviously had a bit of a mare in the first half, to say the least. And I think that you had four guys that I don't know have ever played together across the back as a quad,
as a foursome. Yeah.
So I thought that showed quite a bit in the first half.
Yeah, you saw from right back the stuff that Bogard does well as a midfielder. There were a couple instances where he got the ball and was able to drive off the dribble into midfield and ultimately create something a little bit, but the instincts just aren't there. And to your point, completely different position. You understand, a lot of attacks stymied when they got out to him because he wasn't providing the proper width, because he wasn't far enough forward. And so listen, if that's what we're stuck with, that's what we're stuck with. We don't really have someone else, and Matty Cash does ultimately need to get some minutes off the pitch. I wonder if in the future, if Ezri Konsa is fit, maybe Victor Lindelof plays out there. We've experimented with that a couple of different times. Coincidentally, Lindelof actually also looked better when he moved into defensive midfield in the latter part of the second half, playing alongside Lamar Bogard. So yeah, a little mixed bag from him, but like the classy midfielder comment that I made before, you saw this in the second half. He's kind of running onto a ball, a kind of loose ball, has a Cruyff chop to get it around a defender, gets fouled, gets a really nice offensive free kick for Villa. I think a couple sequences later is actually when they got that second goal. And he just looks increasingly confident in that space, on the ball, passing the ball with defenders around him. Very, very Kamara light, I would like to say, in how he moves around the pitch, the kind of things that he sees and the things that he does with the ball. So I'm really encouraged by his development, and obviously having compared Hemmings to him earlier, if Hemmings can make the same kind of leap over the course of the next year, great. We've got a hell of another player there kind of coming through. But you just mentioned the fact that he was god awful for a large portion of this game, basically, until he got a headed goal. Tyrone Mings, he's been out for a while, so I understand some of it, but I understand some of it athletically, but the decision making from him, and not just on the goal, not just to like sit on it on the goal. There were multiple times where he just passed straight to defenders, where he got caught in possession. I counted at least like 4 consequential mistakes that led to Red Bull goals and Red Bull attacks, opportunities. Yeah, attacks. And listen, we always joke about the Mings mistake being a thing. And I know that Red Bull presses hard because like that's their philosophy, but these are not the caliber of players that should be causing Tyrone Mings issues, even a Tyrone Mings coming off the injury layoff that he's had.
Yeah, I mean, the mistake that led to goal was so strange because
it's the third time it's happened to us this year.
He looked like, I mean, I hate to make a joke, but it almost looked like he forgot that we were playing a football match there, and just for some strange reason did not kick the ball to Emi Martinez, and then kind of half kicked it to him. So it went straight to Red Bull. It was so weird. I was sitting and watching the game with a friend of mine at the time, and I said, "Did he get hit in the head with a frying pan or something? What happened there?" Because it did. It looked like he forgot what was happening, and really put Emi Martinez in a terrible spot. And between the two of them, Martinez and Lindelof still nearly got it off the line, but didn't quite get there. So bad day for Tyrone Mings in the first half, and for Aston Villa as a whole in the first half. I mean, there were certainly opportunities for Villa. I thought the game was actually fairly end to end and wide open for swaths of that first half, and Villa could have probably had a goal or two out of it as well. But the defending was terrible, and a little bit of struggle in the midfield, like we talked about, just because of the rotation. I think that was happening there. You had a group of guys, many of whom were making their first appearance for the club, or their first appearance in a long time for the club, all playing together, and it looked like it for the first 45.
Let me also say that's the second year in a row in Europe where Tyrone Mings has looked like he essentially forgot that the game of football was being played around him.
That's true. Yeah.
What is up with that?
I don't know. I mean, it was so weird. And I said something like, "Did he get hit in the head with a frying pan?"
Jesus. Yeah.
All of a sudden he stopped and didn't kick the ball for some reason.
Yeah, he said in the post-match something like, after coming back from the layoff, you can question my ability, but you can't question my mentality. I don't know, man. After both of those, I'm questioning your mentality too.
I don't question the ability at all. I think the ability was fine. He'll be there, you know.
I mean, with the mistakes, you're probably questioning the ability a little bit. But anyway, on for Mings. Ultimately redeems himself. We'll talk about that a little bit later when we get to the second half. Beautiful header.
Yep.
Ollie Watkins, of course.
35th minute or so, limps off with a hammy. Unai in the post made it sound like it may not be much, but we've talked about this, about players. Hamstrings are the worst, particularly for attacking players, but they are for everybody just because there's so much running involved in playing a game of soccer that it's impossible to do it if your hamstring isn't up to snuff. And so my concern is now that you're looking at like a 6 to 8 week layoff with him. And I hope that's not the case, but anytime somebody comes up non-contact, I always get worried.
I mean, thank God we already got a striker in, right? Yeah, in the post-match, you alluded to this. Unai Emery said something along the lines of like, he felt some pain. It wasn't a lot of pain. Obviously, we all saw him walk off the pitch, walk down the tunnel without any kind of noticeable limp or anything the way that Yuri Tielemans had. Different injuries, but, you know.
Sure.
But Unai was already casting doubt on his availability for Sunday. So when we get to our Brentford preview later, I think we all know who will be predicting to start up top. So Morgan Rogers comes in at the 9. Listen, I'm not advocating for this to happen super often, but it reminded me a little bit of when Villa were struggling to create several years ago under Dean Smith, and we brought on Anwar El Ghazi to play central striker when we had that injury crisis, Anwar El Ghazi. And, you know, kind of similar profile to Rogers, right? Typically a winger, about 6'1", kind of pacey, kind of tricky with a good shot on him, especially a good distance shot. And it just gave defenses something else to think about. And all of a sudden, Villa were creating like a lot more opportunities with him as the 9. Again, Rogers should not be our out and out number 9, but I do think that this was kind of pivotal in a similar way to Villa's comeback, because the Red Bull defense didn't necessarily know how to defend for Rodgers's movement and where he was trying to pick the ball up. He was going to float all the way out to the touchline on the wing to try and get it. He would come very deep. He would run in a lot more behind. He's not going to be that traditional like Ollie Watkins, just back up and just try and like settle the long ball. And then you allow the other players to kind of run off of him and create a little bit more of a dynamic attack. And I think that's why Villa were able to get so many more opportunities in the second half because of his movement and because of his ability to combine with other players, Emi Buendia in particular.
Yeah, I thought the two of them linked up very well. You saw it in the goal, especially. That's like a perfect example of it. What a job by Buendia, by the way, on the Rogers goal to be able to maintain that possession in a really, really tight area with a lot of defenders around him. And he found Rogers with a really nice pass to set up Rogers for the easy goal. It was a very well executed passage of play that led to that first goal.
Super calm, classy finish by Morgan. And I will just say one more tally in my Emi Buendia 15 goal contributions prediction.
Yeah, and that looking good now on that one, I think, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought those two played very well off of each other.
Yeah. Once again, successful Villa results from actually using width. Matty Cash comes in, plays a lot more wide than Lamar Bogard. You saw Luka Dean heels on the touchline on the left-hand side, really stretching the Red Bull defense and creating so many more opportunities through the middle that weren't available in the first half. I thought that was so crucial to the turnaround as well. And ultimately, you know, it was through utilizing some of this width. The ball gets out there, gets swung in with a great, he slipped and kind of hit it off of both feet, but great ultimate cross by Matty Cash. Great attack by Tyrone Mings. I will say, if I'm a Salzburg fan, I'm super pissed at the goalie for not going for that more. Yeah. He's kind of passive in how he let Mings get to it. But still, Mings had all the work to do to make that run, to time that run, to stay onside, get up for it, and ultimately knot it into an empty net.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that Cash fell and slipped when he put that cross in, because that was a perfect cross. It was a beaut.
Inch perfect, bending, so nice.
Like,
yeah.
if that's what it takes, man, I'm telling you, I've been on this train a long time. Matty Cash is one of the best players we've got on the squad, and certainly one of the most important. But you're 100% right. It was the width that sort of created that, and Cash was in space for that cross. He didn't have a defender near him, so he did have time to really pick a spot and tee it up and time the run. Mings timed his run very well. It was a really nice job to work that goal, and it took great execution from both players to do it. But what a ball from Cash, slipping and kicking it like that, and then Mings with just a great headed finish.
Yep. But Chris, it was not enough. At this point, 2-2 draw. Villa are still sitting in third place, really wanting to get that top 2 so that once we get to the round of 16, we can guarantee that second leg at home. And Chris, the kids saved the day.
The kids are all right.
The kids are all right. Caden Young, nice run down the wing. Boy really loves a step over. I think he was only on for like 8 minutes and had about 15 of them every time he got on the ball.
He's just trying to get a YouTube highlight cut. That's all,
Yeah. But gets the ball, step over, accelerates away. Ultimately, great cross to Jim Oloba. And, I don't know that he's going to get enough credit for this being as mature and calm of a finish as it was. You really see as the ball comes across the box there are a lot of players in the world, a lot of senior players in the world, a lot of players on Aston Villa that would probably really accelerate to the ball, try and meet it, blast it over, blast it wide, try and curl it upper 90, hit one of the defenders. But you can really see him approach it calmly, slowly. And as the ball gets to the perfect spot for him, he really picks out that bottom right, lets the goalie go down, and then he puts it in there. And so the maturity and the technique on that one to hit it that well first time for your first goal as a 19-year-old.
Yep.
I mean, another one that I think has the potential to be a really, really, really good player.
I mean, that was you can't ask for much more than that on a first goal. I was taken aback by the finish as well, because it was so clinical and almost surgical. And when he first came on, he let one rip from a little ways outside the.
He let a few. Dude's got no fear,
and he wasn't far off when it was about 4 minutes into his appearance. I think that he really let fly, and wasn't far off from hitting it. So I mean, he looks like a potentially very exciting player for Villa, and that's a good thing. And I mean, what a way to score your first goal, right? To get Villa into the round of 16 or into the knockout stages without having to go to a playoff and all that stuff. And it's a storybook sort of start for him there with his first goal.
Yep. And by the way, I will add, we've spoken a lot this year about where we've got depth, where we don't have depth, when we've had injuries, who can step in, who can't. And we keep kind of saying, that left attacking midfielder role, it's basically just Buendia if Rodgers is going to play down the middle, and your other backup is Morgan Rodgers, in which case who is playing the 10. So having him be someone who can come in, spell Buendia for a bit, move the formation around, have the confidence to take guys on, to take shots, that could be an invaluable resource over the course of the next 12 games here while we're kind of without McGinn and Yuri Tielemans in particular.
Yeah, I think that's a really good call.
Chris, no real other good points other than I want to add after the game. Nana always goes over to the Villa fans and does the pump and the crown celebration. So he brought Aloba over, and let him kind of run that. I continue to love what a glue guy, what a great locker room guy Amadou Onana is. And it'll never come up when we're evaluating his Villa career and like, was he worth the 50 million? But like, sometimes you got to pay for a vibes guy, and like that's got to be worth at least 10 mil.
Yeah. And again, he has a lovely singing voice. I'm going to keep mentioning that because he does, and he speaks 5 languages. Like, he's a really interesting guy. If you haven't taken the time to kind of look up and learn about Onana, do it, because he is an interesting man.
Once again, as we've said before, by the way, multiple great sliding sort of side challenges with those long legs.
Is there anybody better at curling his leg from behind and getting the ball? I mean, that might be his signature move at this point.
Yeah. Chris, larger implication on the season. So as we've said a bunch of times, we locked up second place in the group stage, second legs at home now, moving forward through the semifinals. And I did not independently verify this. I just saw it before we hopped on, but supposedly we will play one of Celta Vigo, Lille, PAOK, or Red Star Belgrade in the round of 16.
I saw that same tweet. I don't remember who it was from.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I would like to avoid Lille if at all possible.
Yeah, out of that group, yes, I agree.
Yeah. Anything else on this one, Chris, or are we just on to the next round?
On to the next round. Happy to get a win. Happy the kids got some experience. Happy for Jamal Loba to get that goal. Like I said, what a great start for him. And hopefully long may it continue.
And excited to not play 2 more games in this stretch.
Correct.
Run. We will not see Villa again in Europe until March 12th and 19th is the round of 16.
Okay.
Chris, before we get to Brentford, I've got 2 cold waters for you. One is really just so that I can get my own rant out there, but I'm going to let you get at it first. So first one, Unai Emery is going to Madrid in the summer.
I don't pour a ton of cold water on it. I pour some on it, but I think there are only a few jobs for which Unai Emery would leave Aston Villa, and that may be one of them. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I can't say that I would absolutely pour ice cold water on that. Now go ahead with your rant.
Okay, let me make sure I'm stretched out here and great. This is so stupid. I'm pouring so much cold water on this, and if I'm wrong, I will absolutely hold my hands up and own this. You know I will, but nothing about this makes sense to me, and I think it is lazy journalism, just connecting the best Spanish coach not at a traditional big club to the biggest job in Spain. But otherwise, everything we know about Real Madrid, about Unai Emery, about Unai Emery's career tells you that he is not taking this job. What does Unai Emery always want? Tactical discipline. What does he always butted up against when he's been at these bigger, at Arsenal, at PSG in particular, and obviously would at Real Madrid? The diligence with which he makes his players commit to training, to tactics, to study, to everything. What just happened at Real Madrid? Xabi Alonso, who is an absolute legend of the game, legend of Real Madrid, legend of Spain, who has actually won a league title in a top 5 league, top 4 league in the Bundesliga in Germany. What they do, they ran him out of town because he actually wanted them to train. That's it. Because Mbappe, Jude Bellingham, and Vinicius Jr. in particular essentially want to live under a regime of like Philip Coutinho and Steven Gerrard era Villa. Just roll the balls out and let us bang it off the crossbar from 50 yards out. Real Madrid does not have a tactical style of play. They never have. They're Galacticos. They can defend deep. They can press. They can possess you off the park. Absolutely, because they've got the most talented players in the world. But like, that's all they want the coach to tell them to do. None of those guys are sitting through Unai Emery film sessions. None of those guys are letting Unai Emery move them to the centimeter around the pitch that the way that he wants to. And by the way, when he tries to bench them or sell them, there is not a chance in effing hell that Florentino Perez is going to back him in that. And he knows this. If we know this, he knows this. And so if he's going to leave Aston Villa at some point in his career, which may happen, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he's going to be here for 20 years like our Sir Alex Ferguson. I hope it's for at least a handful more. It's not going to be for Real Madrid. It's just not. He's been through this before at PSG in particular. Didn't go that great. So no, I think these are connections that are maybe coming out of Real Madrid's camp. I'm sure they want to sound him out, but I just don't see, with everything that we know about him and everything that we know about that club, that that's going to be what he leaves for.
Well, that was very well put, sir. It's almost like you've thought about that one before.
Been chewing on that one all day. I also texted you most of it.
You did. I knew it was coming. Yes.
All right, Chris, the other cold water, and I'm curious what you're going to say to this one. Evann Guessand, who obviously is on his way to Crystal Palace, loaned about a 28 million pound option to buy, I believe, translates to about 32 million euros. If certain clauses are met, appearance clauses, I presume, or other metrics. Evann Guessand was the biggest failure transfer that we've had in recent memory.
I mean, purely off of this season, it's difficult to say no to that and pour cold water on it. I think, like, if we're just taking that, the time he's been at the club, which is all we can really measure, then I think the answer to that is yes. So I do not pour cold water on that. If I can be a little bit measured, which is not usually my space in this pod, I think it's early to call it 6 months in. Because we've seen it before. Players either really take off like a shot under Unai Emery, or they struggle with Unai Emery's system and tactics and expectations and all those things. And I think maybe Guessand falls into that camp. And if he ends up coming back off of this loan, we'll see what happens then, in another season. So yes, I think based on purely on the time he's been here, he is one of, if not the most disappointing transfer in recent memory. But he's also, it's early to call it and call it a failure right away, is the way I guess I'm couching it, like a coward.
No, I think that that's a fair way to put it. So, like, I don't pour a ton of cold water on this. I guess maybe I'll put a couple drops, but listen, he's certainly in the short list. And I think you're right that it is down to length of time at the club, production that you got, and then ultimately, like, how he goes. You and I both think that there are enough raw components to think that there is a player in there somewhere, right? And I do think that what he does well probably suits Crystal Palace's style of play a little bit more than Aston Villa. You can see kind of him just running with the ball down the wing like Ismail Assar does, something like that. And so if he goes away for 6 months, plays kind of well, maybe still comes back, has a little bit more confidence, we'll ultimately see whether we move. But to your point, we kind of got to decide it based on what we've seen right now. And so I think about, like, what makes a failed transfer, and it's often like price to production, sure, but also relative to budget. The 30 million that we spent on Evann Guessand is not the same as the 30 million that we spent on Ollie Watkins, because our budget was a lot smaller, right? This was seen in today's market as a little bit more of like a bargain transfer at 30 billion, whereas like 3, 4, 5 years ago, that would be our record. And so who else do I put in that category? You've got Wesley, but I think that his failure is mitigated by a horrible injury that was not his fault. The other one that I would probably put in that realm is like a Scott Hogan in the Championship, costing, 15 some odd million. That's certainly up there. And then you look at some of the guys that we bought maybe during the relegation season, that obviously the impact of that failure was more than both Scott Hogan or Evann Guessand. But, if Mika Richards, Julian Lescott, whoever, like, come in on a free can you really say that that was that big of a failed transfer? Because like, what else would you use that money for?
Did you just
I
call him
don't know.
Mika?
Yeah, Big Meeks.
All
I know, Micah Richards.
right.
Sorry, I always do that in my head. Big Meeks, Mika.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Those are the other guys up there, but like, for him being basically the main transfer for a whole summer as this team pushed on and to be shipped out so unceremoniously 6 months later, it's hard to say that it's not him.
Can't believe Rudy Gestede is out here catching strays from you, though. You didn't actually say his name. I'm just messing with you.
I didn't.
But you alluded to him.
And he's someone who actually didn't make. He is another one who I kind of thought about, but didn't make my list because I don't think that he cost enough.
Right.
That felt like a bargain transfer. Someone who was trying to make the step up when we got him because we just didn't want to spend money on a striker, and so I almost like don't really blame him for that.
Fun fact: I think he's like a executive at Blackburn or something like that. He's in the game as like a executive of some sort, player development, something, sporting director, something like that. Yeah. So,
okay, on to Brentford.
You can't do anything with that dead fish I just dropped in your lap about Rudy Gestede.
Scott Hogan came from Brentford, right?
On to Brentford is good.
To Scott Hogan's former club, Brentford.
The Scott Hogan Derby.
Yeah, that's right. It's not the Ollie Watkins Derby or the Ezri Konsa Derby. It's the Scott Hogan Derby.
Hogan. That's right. We're going way back.
All right. So we've already played Brentford twice this year. Keith Andrews is fighting bees, and we lost twice. Once in the league, once in the League Cup on penalties, and we look trash in both. So we're not going to spend any more time on that because that was a different time, a different Villa. Chris, Brentford, we were concerned about in our preseason preview, and we talked about the players that they've lost. We talked about losing their manager. Turns out Thomas Frank ain't shit, and it's all about the Brentford internal scouting department and director of football, because Keith Andrews, a former set piece coach, has stepped right in, and he has looked excellent. He got them all the way up to 5th as of 21 games into the season, Chris. They were 5th. Champions League Brentford. Before they've had back-to-back 2-0 losses versus Chelsea and Forest, dropped them to 8th. They are perfectly 500 on the year, 10 wins, 3 draws, 10 losses. And before these 2 back-to-back losses, they had won 5-6 with 1 draw in between. They didn't really play anyone in those matches. The draw was against Spurs. There was like wins against Wolves and whatnot. They did beat Sunderland, I think 3-0. Yes. But we can see how Sunderland is slipping down the table over the course of the last month or two. But still, hey, unbeaten in 6 is unbeaten in 6. Doesn't really matter who the opposition is.
Correct. I agree. I think that they've had a really good season. Maybe you're right. Maybe Thomas Frank ain't shit, to use your phrase. I don't know. He doesn't look great except in Europe, at Spurs. But I remember in the preview talking about the fact that they promoted the set piece coach, right, to take the big job, and would that work? And so far, I think it's worked very well. And Thiago's having a great season. 16 goals? I think
16 goals. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the league alone.
That's incredible to get that kind of production. And right now, Brentford is almost like another Brighton, where it doesn't seem to matter who comes and goes. They just play, and they stay consistent and competitive, and they're always going to be around that mid-table, upper mid-table, flirting with European spots type play. I think it looks like, and that's at least for now a great place to be, considering that the club was in the Prem for the first time in forever, if not ever, when they came up 5 years ago, whatever it was. So it's just the consistency is impressive, given that they're not going to be or ever be the richest club that can spend a bunch of money.
you compared them to Brighton, so clearly they're another great club for Villa to model themselves after, right,
Yes,
Chris?
well, yes, that's exactly right.
That is what
We
Aston
have
Villa
gotten that
aspire to
before.
be.
Like online, people will tell us to model like Brentford, a team that's never been to Europe. That's the model we need to follow.
That should be Aston Villa's aspirations. We should
Yes.
be looking down towards Brentford from our lofty heights of third. So Chris, at the preview, we're like, who knows what Keith Andrews' style is going to be? We weren't sure because he had never been a head coach before. I think he's done a good job of maintaining everything that was successful under Thomas Frank. He's kind of realized, listen, we had a good thing going. I don't need to come in and revolutionize everything. So they're still playing a 4-2-3-1. They're still fairly compact defensively. They defend the middle very well, try and push their opponents out wide to generate more shots from the wings, crossing plays as opposed to intricate play through the middle. And they're quick on the counter. And then they get the ball into good scoring positions in the center of the net, about 6 to 12 yards out, and Igor Thiago just bangs them home. It's a relatively simple philosophy, but it works, and they've really got the players to do it.
I mean, we said before, this isn't a complicated game, really. So if you can execute well, you're going to have success. And I think that credit to Andrews for being able to maintain this style of play that seems very familiar. Like you said, they don't possess the ball. They don't take a lot of shots. I think they're just at 10 shots a game, thereabouts.
9.6.
Yeah.
And that's actually crazy, Chris. Sorry, before just to hammer that point home. They only take 9.6 shots per game, but they are still tied for the 6th most goals, level with Aston Villa with 35.
Yes, I mean,
shows you kind of the high quality of opportunity that they create for themselves.
Yeah, so that's they when they take a shot, it's a legitimate scoring chance. They're not just ripping the ball at the net. I think that there are some things that Villa can do that they can exploit. Setting up defensively, as Brentford likely will, compactly, will allow Villa to possess. And so you'll see a lot of that slow, fast sort of build up and probably some long shots, given that the book on Brentford is that they cannot defend long shots or do not defend long shots very well because of the way they set up defensively. So I think in that aspect, it's potential for Villa to have a solid game. But because Brentford executes so well on the counter, I'm concerned, if Villa have a bad turnover or a long shot gets deflected or gets blocked and goes the other way, and then you're on 6s and 7s running back toward your own net, and Brentford have the players to execute and score against that. So I think both teams could be looking at this and saying, "Oh, we might be able to get something out of this game."
Yeah, I agree. The one thing that I will note is you say Brentford don't possess the ball a lot, and you're right. On the season, especially away, I think their average possession is 47%. That is much less so over the course of their last 8. So that 6-game winning run and even their 2 losses. I think they won the possession battle in every single one of those, pushing 60 in a few. Maybe a couple times they went over that. So I don't know if that is, obviously I haven't watched all of those games, so I don't know if that's game flow or a deliberate tactical change. That is almost a dead even mix of home and away as well. So, I tried to look for any kind of reason that I could find into that. All I can say is that they are trying to get on the ball a little more, and I do wonder what that will do playing against a team like Villa, who typically do want to control the ball, even if that hasn't necessarily been the case over the course of the last few. Other guys to look out for: Kevin Shada, 6 goals, 3 assists. Interestingly, he scored all 6 goals at home, but he is their second leading goal contributor behind Igor Thiago, as you noted. And at least WhoScored.com notes them as being weak to 2 things that we know Aston Villa do very, very well: long shots and defending the lead.
Yeah, I mean, what do Villa do better than both those things? Come back from being down like they did tonight against Salzburg and score bangers. So, maybe a Buendia banger in the works here for this one.
Speaking of comebacks, by the way, I did predict a 3-1 come from behind victory for the Salzburg game.
Yeah, come from behind is the key word there that you really hammered home. But yes, you were close. But anyway, like I said, I think both teams look at this game and say we might be able to get something out of this. And I think for Brentford coming into Villa Park, which has been a very tough place to play now for several seasons, I think that they'll have some confidence that they'll be able to stay with Villa and play the game they want, even on the road. And it's going to be up to Aston Villa to execute well and outplay what will be a very well-organized defensive team. I think, you just mentioned the great stat about how they've been trying to get on the ball more. I wonder what's going to happen when they come up against Villa if they're gonna.
Yeah, I don't think they will. I think that streak comes to an end.
Yeah.
A little bit of player news, Chris. So Mikkel Damsgaard and Ayer both went off early against Forest. Keith Andrews earlier today in his press conference was a little bit coy about their availability for Sunday. He said, I think at least one will be available. Did not say which one. So waiting to see, but obviously if both those guys are off, that's a big boon to Aston Villa.
Yep.
Otherwise, they're pretty healthy. There's a couple long-term injuries from Fabio Carvalho. Malambo and Da Silva all will be out in this one, but otherwise they're at full health. So let's turn our attentions to Aston Villa. What are you thinking? How are we approaching this one, and who's playing in it?
I mean, again, we're kind of working off of the players that we have available, right? So I have Emi Martinez in goal as long as he's healthy, because that's always going to happen.
Couple great saves today, by the way. We didn't mention that in our recap, but very early on, a great double save by him.
Yep. Cash, Konsa, Pau, Ian Maatsen, Onana and Douglas Luiz. And then I think it'll be – I went back and forth here, but I think it's going to be Sancho, Buendia, Rogers, and Tammy Abraham up top.
Interesting. So you're throwing Dougie in right away.
Mm-hmm. Out of necessity, really. Like you could go Bogard there, that's possible. That'd be the other name, but I think at least there's potential for it because of his familiarity with the club and with Emery. I think you could see it. I know it's kind of crazy because he's just been signed like 24 hours ago, but I think it's possible.
So I have Emi in goal, Cash, Konsa, Pau, Maatsen. I have Bogard, Onana. And maybe this is just my preference, but I really like Onana so much more on that left side, playing a little bit more advanced as opposed to the pure 6. I think that leaves us a little more exposed because he roams forward so well. And I don't think that if Dougie had been playing a lot and I had more confidence in his match fitness, I would probably be willing to throw him in, but he's hardly got a kick. Like, I don't know if he can even breathe. So I'm probably going Bogard, Onana. And then in front of them, I think that it'll be Buendia, Rogers, Bailey, and Tammy Abraham. And the reason for that is obviously Sancho got a huge run today.
Yeah, that's true.
And, he still isn't necessarily someone who we've been playing in a ton of back-to-back games. Kind of back to being pretty anonymous in this one, in my opinion. So I don't necessarily see the incentive, and, we'll certainly want to get something out of it. And as we've said so many times before, who does Unai Emery turn to when he feels like he really needs something, needs a little bit of a stabilizing force? Now that Ollie Watkins is gone too, it might be Leon Bailey once again.
His Jamaican security blanket.
Yep.
Yeah.
In terms of play and style, I don't necessarily feel like this is one that Villa need to get on top early to get any jitters out or anything like that. We're coming off of a few really great wins in a row. I think the team is feeling confident. The team is feeling good. So I'm thinking this might be one that Villa try and really exert their possessional dominance as opposed to trying to score right away. You'll probably see a little bit slower of a buildup as they test Brentford out, see what they're really capable of and how they want to approach this one. Are they going to try and get on the ball the way that we say that they might, or are they going to sit back a little bit more? So this could be one where we're a little bit frustrated over the course of the first 30, 45 minutes, maybe go into half 0-0 before Villa ultimately score in the second half.
What do you have for a final then?
I have 2-1 Aston Villa, and I think Tammy is going to get off the mark right away.
Nice. I have 2-1 as well. Aston Villa winning. I said Buendia banger earlier this in this pod, so I'll give Emi Buendia a goal there. But you could see it going the other way too. I don't think this is going to be an easy one. But I am more confident at home, and with the way the team have been playing than what we saw earlier in the season, I think.
I struggled not to pick a 1-1 draw. I will say that there was something in my head that's saying 1-1, but I feel confident enough that Villa can nip this.
I hope
and
so.
We really have to if we want to keep the pressure on.
That's right.
All right. Anything else, Chris, or YouTube shout outs to close it out?
Let's do our shout outs.
All right. The YouTubes have been active. We love all the comments, and it's been fun. We've actually had commenters interacting with other commenters. It hasn't just been us, but shouts out to Thomas Condit.
I wonder who he might be.
That one wrong. Yeah, I know, right? Ryan Coop, 1984. Paul Kelly, 0012. Thanks for sticking around. Not a first-time commenter. Yeah. Richard Lionheart, 793, had some good opinions on Dougie Louise. Martin Watkins, P8B, super confident on where we're going to be by match week 34. I am not going to spoil that. Please go check it out for yourself on one of the recent episodes. Henny 57555, Alex 15, and I swear that's not my burner. That is not my burner. Big PJ 4205 sticking up for us with one of the haters. Shouts out to you. And as always, shouts out to Black Country Villain and Big Walt. Thanks for hopping in those as well. And shouts out to the haters too. Even though you don't want to hear us, you guys are sticking in there. You're responding. You're coming back. Yeah. As much as you say you don't, clearly you want to hear from us and care what we think. So the Republic of Seneca and Ian Davidson, E8G, keep listening, keep hating. We love the metrics. Stick with us.
Yeah. Say some more stuff. Comment.
Yeah. Every single one. You can say you hate us on every single episode if you want, and we will respond to every single one of those and continue to make fun of you, you sad people.
Love you.
All right, Chris. Well, stay safe in the snow. Hopefully you have power to watch the game on Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern time. And as always, my friend, up the Villa.
Up the Villa.
Hi, Mom and Dad.